Welcome to this, our latest Astley Media Project Positive Tea webcast. Today, we're in conversation with TV presenter and author, the naturalist Nick Baker. Nick talks to us about the benefits of reconnecting with nature and how we can all do our bit to help the environment. Enjoy. Hi Nick, how are you doing?
I'm very good, cheers Mark, thank you. Yeah, I'm all right. Enjoying this, it's the last of the summer days, it seems. It's just slowly getting a little bit autumnal, a little bit cooler now.
There's chill in the air today, isn't there? Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see the trademark Nick Baker haircut has survived lockdown.
Yeah, well, it did get a little bit desperate at times. It looked a little bit more like a hedgerow. There was times where I did consider going back to the 80s haircut, which was like a ponytail. It was getting so long and unkept, but we've managed to get it back in check to an extent anyway.
Yeah. I always get hair envy when I'm talking to you.
I don't know, yours is all right.
Yeah.
I'm making the most of it while I've got it. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah. I tried to do that, but it didn't last that long. That was the problem. Nick, let's start with the pandemic. It's pretty much brought the train to a halt for people like you who regularly appear on TV, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, the TV, the travel, the guiding, the theatre shows. Even I was even worried at times that some of the writing was going to pack up because obviously people just weren't buying magazines. It was, people were going out to buy them. So everything went online. Unless you had an online presence, you were pretty much stuffed. And so it's been, everything kind of stopped. I had a week and a half where my entire diary for the year emptied. It slowly started picking up. There's bits and pieces coming in. But I'm afraid I'm one of those, I'm the dinosaur generation really now. And I can't compete with this continuous army of social media stuff. So I struggle a little bit keeping up with things. But then I think that's one of the dangers. So I just try and stay positive and in some ways stay away from that. If it's making you feel, you get that sort of fear of missing out and making you feel anxious that you're not there, you're missing things, missing opportunities, then sometimes you've got a choice. You either do something about it and, or you, if it's too much, it's taken too much of your time away from the things that you're good at and you love doing, then ignore it. So I'm at that point where I'm sort of stuck between, I have days where I ignore it and days when I do it. And I'm pretty sure that's a compromise that doesn't work either way. But yeah, I'm kind of been a little bit more philosophical about it already, but it's been a very weird year for all of us. I mean, I've been very lucky. I live in a little bit of a bubble community here on Dartmoor. And I've been lucky because I've got a garden and I've got the ability to disappear out into the countryside without seeing anybody relatively easily. So lockdown, weirdly, has been a very positive thing for me because all the stresses and the strains and all the things that normally cause me issues have actually all just vaporized. The downside of that is so did the money, so did the income, and I don't get any government help either. So I kind of got a little bit stuck, and it's just picking up now. I'm not saying I'm not out of the woods, but things are beginning to look more positive. And then I think what I've just done, I mean, weird enough, it just happened last week, since we last spoke actually. I like riding my bike. I love going out riding my bike. It's good for my head, it's good for my body, clears my mind of things. Unfortunately, I can't get the bike I want at the moment, the dream bike, but I've got a bike and I'm grateful for that. So I've been riding it and I've been riding it a lot and I've enjoyed that process. And then last week, some friends of mine that work for it's a company called Wildlife Worldwide, which is a company that does wildlife tours that I normally do. And I had some Dartmoor tours booked this year. I was going to take people out for the weekend, show them my Dartmoor here where I live. And that all sort of fell to pieces. But they asked me, they wanted to get a team together that would collectively, independent of each other, although we do get together from time to time, cycle among the team the total length of Africa from north to south. Wow. I just signed up, agreed to do it last week, and I went out for my first collective ride for that to try and tally up the miles to raise money for rangers in Africa across. It's part of Tusk. It's all about There's been issues with lockdown there, of course, with tourism's down. The income from tourism is not getting through to the right places, and of course, a lot of this conservation relies directly on tourism money. So we're helping out the rangers best we can, raising money to keep the poaching levels down. And to keep them in business. So yeah, I thought, well, if I'm riding my bike anyway, I might as well ride it for charity. So that's one of the things I'm doing, which it keeps my mind away from all the things I'm not doing, I think, or can't do. So that's pretty good. But yeah, there's bits and pieces going on. I'm trying to write a book, trying to get a book out and priced up so that I can start writing it properly. And who knows what's going to happen. I've done a lot of good stuff with the Isle of Wight as well, which is sort of trying to help their tourism. So I did a bit with White Link ferries. So yeah, weird sort of corporate stuff, but stuff that still resonates with what I'm about, which is trying to get people out there into nature, but responsibly.
Yeah, sort of pivoting, which seems to be the on-trend word these days.
Yeah,
sounds like you did a bit of that.
Yeah, pivoting. I think that's a good word. I mean, I'm pretty adaptable anyway. My actual skill set's pretty niche. So I'm a naturalist. So I spend all my time working with wildlife. But it's not a skill that is valued much in the same way as a plumber or an electrician is. So I've been doing a bit of that as well. I've been doing a bit of painting, painting and decorating for friends, just to make ends meet. So yeah, I'm happy to do. As long as I'm happy, as long as I keep a roof over my family's head and keep paying the bills, then I'm relatively happy. But as far as ambition and goals and career go, it's sort of on pause, I think, at the moment. I'm taking this time to reflect a little bit and reassess and look for other directions.
Yeah. Just going back to the charity, Nick, how do people support that initiative?
Well, it's all linked up to Strava. I've posted things on my social media, certainly on Twitter and on Facebook. But Wildlife Worldwide, the company that are putting it together, they've got stuff on their website as well. So there'll be stuff. I will eventually. I'm going to do it. It's one of my jobs to do today. Hopefully, is just put a link onto my website as well. In fact, I should have done that first up. But I'm the dinosaur, as I said. I find sitting there updating websites really tedious and difficult and clunky. So, but yeah, I'll get around to it eventually.
Well, not only that, you get people like me interrupting your day as well. So
well, that's all right. No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. No, I enjoy it. I welcome the distraction, to be honest with you.
So you say you've been out and about. You've been enjoying the countryside, getting out on your bike, getting out on Dartmoor. Is there any evidence, Nick, that lockdown's been good for nature?
At the very beginning of lockdown, I thought, yeah, this is quite good because it was deserted. I mean, there was no traffic noise at all. The malls were empty. In fact, there's a lot of shaming going on because if you did bump into somebody, two like-minded people sneaked out for a little bit of exercise, and then you bumped into someone on a horse and they look at you and go, what are you doing here? So yeah, it was really quiet, and it hit right at the time for the majority of bird species breeding. So I'm pretty sure that lack of disturbance from humans, which is a bit of an issue, certainly for certain species here on the moor, but probably elsewhere in the UK, I suspect that was a good thing. But unfortunately, there was the way the government released everyone in one go. There was this huge, and as soon as the starter pistol went, everyone just went straight out, which you can't blame humans for, because we've been restricted so much in our movement. Suddenly, everyone's sort of on a big paid holiday, really, for the majority of people. And that's where all those horrible headlines, those scenes from Dorset beaches, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And then I think in some ways any benefits that we had early on in the season were pretty quickly scrubbed out, because if any birds had nested near a footpath or near a car park or somewhere where it was previously quite quiet, they would have been disturbed to the point of failure, probably. So, and we've seen evidence of that in previous years. We have the MOD ranges up here on the moor, and some of them are firing quite actively, so people aren't allowed. There's no public access, and then the birds tend to nest right next to the footpaths and things. And then every now and then they have a weekend where they open it up and people can go there. And then in those moments, and we've studied birds, who have nested near the paths, there's this massive flow of people, which causes intense disturbance. And of course, disturbance in an open environment like Dartmoor is bad news in ways that people don't really appreciate, which is as soon as a bird is disturbed off the nest, normally that's not a problem, because when the disturbance has gone, they'll come back. But if it's going on all day, every time they're disturbed from the nest, they make alarm calls, and every time that alarm call goes off, that's a dinner bell for a corvid, a crow or a raven, that might be sitting up on the hill. And of course, they've got much better eyes and senses than we have, and they can locate the nests. And so it might not be direct disturbance issues, but it's that disturbance, it triggers other processes. And then it's amplified even more if you've got dogs off leads, which again is one of the reasons we have laws and regulations and guidelines here on the moor to keep your dog on the lead during the breeding season. It's not just because of sheep worrying, it's because of a lot of the ground nesting birds. So a lot of folk don't realise they don't nest. All birds don't nest in trees. So, but yeah. So to answer your question, I don't know. The time will tell whether there's been any benefits for wildlife in lockdown. I suspect there might be some benefits, some hidden benefits, in the sense of a lot of folk have appreciated nature at a different level this year. It's almost like the year we noticed nature, and that in time may prove beneficial in the sense of people appreciate it now. And as soon as you start loving your local green spot, your park, your nature reserve, whatever it is that you have appreciated when you've been unlocked this year, if that gets threatened or if there is any compromise to that, then people are more likely to listen and do the right thing. So I think perhaps there might be a little, I'm hoping there's a bit more awareness for our need for these green, unstructured, open places.
Yeah, let's hope so. But the flip side to that, Nick, I know you've got a real bee in your bonnet about this, coronavirus forced
loads of bees in my bonnet.
What variety of bees? That's the question.
Exactly. I've got a book to help you out if you want.
But a lot of us have foregone our trips abroad, enjoyed Britain. That's helped a lot of local economies. But I know that you've witnessed a lot of disregard for the great outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's again, it's been a headline. There's been a lot of folk simple things like just a bin's full, so people just they stop putting things in bin. They think it's a service. They think it's like a cinema. It's like you go there, you've paid for it in some way. That's the view, and it's yours to utilise or use. And unfortunately, a lot of people, and there's evidence for it that have disregarded some of those common sense processes, like simply, if the bin's full, don't leave it all around, because the whole point of the bin, it keeps it all together, stops it blowing around, stops wildlife coming in contact with your litter and waste. And of course, many of the coastal areas with the Dartmoor scenes, and that's just people that have at least got near to a bin, and that's been a problem. But a lot of it, there's huge amounts of litter everywhere. I've never seen anything like it. And whilst, for every person that is doing the right thing, there seems to be, 5 or 6 that aren't. So as a consequence, there's big issues with localized pollution, because there's no other word for it. It is littering is a form of pollution. So there's been a lot of that. Especially if you're cycling, there's an awful lot of it as well. There's a lot of stuff blowing around in the street. There's a lot of stuff hanging in the bushes. It's COVID related, a lot of it, because we've all seen the number of disposable masks just littering the place. The whole point of a mask is it keeps anything harmful to us away from others. Yet if you see a mask blowing around, that's sort of defeated the object in the first place, because somebody now's got to pick that up. So that's a simple one. But then you can amplify it, and you can talk about disposable barbecues, crisp packets, cans of, drinks cans, just general rubbish and litter. Disposable, what was it someone was telling me the other day? Like disposable tents and things like that, just left in situ. And that frightens me, and it frightens me lots of ways. One, I don't like the disposable economy. I think it's certainly nowadays we should just obliterate that. It shouldn't even exist. But the fact that there are people out there with enough resources to buy all this stuff and then just chuck it away, that for me doesn't make sense, particularly this year, because someone like myself who didn't get any government help and hasn't lost all their work, I couldn't afford, even if I wanted to, I couldn't afford to buy anything and just throw it away. Yeah. So this efficiency of existence has been pointed out, or inefficiency of existence has been pointed out quite a lot by lockdown. Again, it's negative right now, but hopefully there will be positives that come out of it. But yeah, it's been pretty shocking in places.
Yeah, and the bodyboards are just left, bought.
Yeah, that was the thing. That's actually, it was you. We talked about it last week. Yeah, bodyboard. Yeah. How many bodyboards was it at the north coast? Was it a Devon or a Cornish coast beach?
I think it's something like 300 that they collected and lined up for a PR stunt just to raise awareness.
I mean, who buys a bodyboard and uses it a couple of times and then throws it away? I mean, they're right. Just assuming it's the cheapest bodyboard in the world, they're not going to be less than a £5, are they? I mean, how many of us just get a £5 and just do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just madness. Give them back to the shop. Give them to a charity shop. Do something positive with them. If you don't want them, give them to someone who does. It just incenses me. It really does. But yeah, it's all wrong. All wrong.
It is. It's absolutely crackers. Well, on a positive note, Nick, if we could all do something this week, this month, to help nature, just one small thing, what would that be? What would your tips be?
Pick up some litter. I mean, no, joking aside, why not? It feels good, obviously, take precautions. But yeah, just I've got a pair of call them tong things, litter pickers that I just every now and then I just have a little walk, even if it's just up and down your street. Just that a couple of meters either side of your gate, whatever it is. Anything out there that's lying in the street is just pick it up, and that includes things that, I know it's horrible, but things like cigarette butts are the worst. I was pointing out to a smoker the other day as they pinged another cigarette down the drain. I said, that filter's full of not any toxins. That's the whole point of a filter, but it's made up of microplastics. All those little tiny filaments are made of plastic, and that plastic breaks down, and you just flicked it straight into the watercourse. Effectively, that goes straight through. It doesn't necessarily get stopped by the water treatment works. Even if it did, why pass the problem on to someone else? Just give up smoking. That's the answer. But anyway, but the point is, pick up litter. Anything that's not natural and degradable, just pick it up. Do 5 minutes. 5 minutes a week is enough. And if you end up with these ridiculous numbers of bags of litter, like it does happen, I like to take a picture of it and send it to my local council. It illustrates that there is an issue. Now, it's not their fault, although some of the recycling schemes, it can be, especially on these narrow roads. Sometimes they get a little bit rushed, and they feel a bit under pressure because there's cars building up on either side, and they rush it, and then often this stuff's left around. But yeah, it's quite that's just gentle reminders sometimes when they have their weekly briefings or whatever it is, just up the game and remember what they're doing it for. But yeah, a quick litter pick would be good. But just get out there, and if you haven't been out there and enjoying nature, now's the time of year. We've obviously, lockdown started in the spring, and we've seen the season. So there's this, as it gets a bit cooler, there's this tendency for people to retreat back to the box sets and back to the sofa. But actually, this is a really lovely time of year. The light is second to none. That coolness in the air is kind of refreshing. It's not that stifling heat of the early summer that we had. And also, it's the fruiting season. There's loads of great stuff. There's crab apples, there's blackberries, there's elderberries, there's the sloes. Make something. Connect with nature, even if it is making some jam or some wine or a pie. It's there, and I think that's also something. That's something I'd be doing anyway. That makes for a positive feel. But yeah, just get out there. Maybe it's not going away. Nature's still there. It just changes, and that's the beauty. This has been a year where the calendar has not been one made of numbers and weeks. It's been one of proper natural notes. So, the diary is a natural diary this year. It's the day I heard my first blackcap, or the first cuckoo, or when the badgers brought their cubs round for the first time. That's how I'm marking my season and marking my time. And there's this thing that happens. We welcome spring because we've been waiting for it. Then spring happens and we enjoy the spring bit. But as soon as the birds stop singing and the flowers stop flowering, we tend to sort of think, well, that's it, it's all over. And then we start looking forward to Christmas or something like that. But actually, there's a massive chunk of time in between the two where it's just as interesting. It's maybe not as obvious, it's more subtle. But if you tune yourself in, you can get quite a lot out of this time of year too.
Yeah, you preempted my next question there, but just before I go on, one of my outstanding, excuse me, diary notes was going for a swim in the sea at Sidmouth and being surrounded by thousands of, I think there were sprats, and they were literally jumping out of the water and headbutting me. There was so many. I mean, the sea smelled so good. It wasn't particularly pleasant, but I've never experienced that before, and it was absolutely incredible.
That's it, and it's going on. All those sort of things are happening everywhere, and you just don't know what is around the next corner. It's like life, really. Well, it is life, but there's adventures and experiences like that to be had, and unfortunately, you don't get it sitting indoors. You have to be out in it, and it can be simple little things. It could be bumping into a stoat, as it crosses the path in front of you, and it's a fleeting glimpse. You won't get much more than that, and it's all over. But that sort of, because of what we've gone through this year, those little moments become even more precious, and they mean more, and that can make you weak. That can lift you out of the funk and make you appreciate where we are in the world. I mean, there's a lot. You can guarantee there's a lot of people worse off than you right now, and I'm forever grateful for that. Even though I've got loads of things that I can whinge and moan about, and if you ask my wife, I do quite regularly. I'm not some perfect positive saint by any means. I'm not called the Ninja Whinger for no reason, but I do. I do, under it all, I really do appreciate it. And if I find myself moaning or feeling glum, I'll try and check myself and then look around me and think about other people in the world a lot worse off. So yeah, I'm very grateful for where I am, where I live, and my ability, I guess my skill set, which I've traded on for so long, has actually been very useful to myself in a different way this year, where it's actually kept me sane, stuck in my garden with nothing but my garden to look at. It's not a problem for me. I've discovered new species of spider new species of spider in my garden, new species for me that I've never noticed before. Just because I'm looking at it at a different level, I'm scrutinising it in a different way. So there's a lot to be said for the way lockdown has forced our hand. It's not our hand; it's forced our senses to engage in a different way. We're looking for positives now.
Yeah. I mean, I always look forward to spring and the arrival of the swallows and the swifts. That's a great sight, isn't it? What wildlife should we be looking out for this time of year? What can we see in September, October that we can't in May or June?
Well, we'll have very soon. We will have the first. Well, we've got migration happening all the time. So a bit of what we call vismigging, which is a great phrase, which means visible migration. So there's lots of things moving around now. It's not as obvious as the summer and spring migrations, where everything sort of tends to turn up all at once. Things pass through. There's things that are, especially birds moving through. There's a lot of insects as well. Right now, I've got a lot of what we call silver Y moths in my garden. And there's obviously been a migration at some point. Whether these are, actually some of them are quite battered. So this is probably an influx from the south. They've migrated up north through Europe. They might have bred en route, so they're hopscotching on their way up. So there's a lot of those around. It's quite a good time for migrant moths. If you've got honeysuckles, valerians, lavenders all flowering just about, some of the marjorames and mints are still going. Look out for the moths and the butterflies, of course, they're all moving through. So there's lots of things going on. I had Jersey tiger moth, which is a beautiful thing, flying around my fennel yesterday. I was sitting out in the window of sunshine we had yesterday doing a bit of writing in the garden, and I've allowed this monster fennel plant to grow right in the middle of my patio. My wife is not entirely convinced it's the right spot. I guess I'm not convinced it's the right spot, but I really love the foliage. I love the smell when I brush against it. I love the aniseedy smell, but also this time of year, it's fizzing with these sort of pale yellow flowers, which are attracting loads and loads of late summer insects, butterflies, lots of hoverflies, lots of solitary bees and wasps. So ivy flowers, that ivy will be flowering very soon as well. So look out for that in nice sunny walls and banks where ivy is flowering. They've got beautiful flowers. They look a little bit like, what do they look like? They look like, they look a little bit like a coronavirus, actually. Sort of round spheres with lots of spikes on them. And each one of those spikes is a sort of a greeny yellow flower. And they ooze nectar in such prodigious quantities that they are the last stop saloon for many nectar-feeding insects, particularly insects that are about to go into hibernation. So you will see loads of hoverflies, you'll see loads of queen wasps, don't worry about them, queen hornets, all looking beautiful. You'll appreciate all of these things for their own reason. There'd be red admirals, there'd be peacocks, tortoiseshells, commas, I've already said tortoiseshells, all over these things. So look out for that. That's one of my highlights for this time of year. And there's also a bee called the ivy bee, which is specifically emerges late in the season. So it has a solitary bee, it has small colonies in sandy areas where it has its burrows, but it is specifically times its emergence and its life cycle to hit the superabundance of ivy flowers. So that's one to look out for. That's quite a pretty one. It's quite a pretty bee, a bit like a honeybee, a bit smaller, but with slightly more, much more prominent stripes on its abdomen.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I've been taking notes. I think the key to all this, though, Nick, often is just slowing down, isn't it, and taking time to witness what's around you, and rather than being blinkered and rushing from one thing to another. And I think probably a lot of us have got doing that because of the lockdown. But it is surprising what you can see if you just look.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I did, weirdly enough, I wrote a book about this, which has had a little bit of a resurgence in, because it's been on the shelf a couple of years. I think we're just about to bring out a paperback version of it called Rewild.
Yeah, read it.
And it's all about that. It's about slowing down. It's about why slowing down means why slowing down is good for you, but how it helps you tune in all your other senses, and why you see more and hear more and smell more when you slow down, because you give your senses time to catch up. We're not designed to be rushing around. Doing what I did this morning when you called, I had the computer was ringing, the mobiles were ringing, the landline was ringing. We're not designed to be doing all that. We're designed to, do simple one purposes, one or two things at a time, at a pace, and slowing down, but increasing your sensitivity, to all of these things, all of the messages that you can pick up with your senses. It always sounds really hippie when I start talking like that, but the reality is we're born with all this stuff and very few of us use it. So if you spend a bit of time relearning your own toolkit, the one that you're born with, learning how to use it properly, then you'll be amazed. I said it opens your eyes, but it doesn't. It opens your eyes, your ears, your nose. It opens everything to the world around us. And this lockdown, this whole global crisis and it will happen again. There will be waves. There will be waves of this. We might have to repeat some of this stuff. It might be a new lifestyle for a while. But every time you find your wings clipped, try and use it as a positive. Try and find something useful to do in that time. And the most simple thing you can do is, find an open space and sit there and sit there and just see and what you can tune into.
Yeah, and I say spooky. You've just mentioned Rewild, because my next question was going to be around that quote, which I love. Which is in Rewild, you say you're a proud owner of the most important toolkit you could ever possibly own, and it's the one you were born with.
That's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And a lot of it. I mean, you watch a young kid in the pushchair. we could be, the grown-ups could be chatting away above its head, but it'll be like watching the fly on the wall or notice the spider down there. We are born naturalists. We are born, for most of our evolution, we've been hunter-gatherers. We've had to be tuned into nature because that was everything for us. That's where our food came from. It's where all the dangers came from. So we had to tune into it for our own survival. Now, modern humans, as soon as we invented farming and settled down, we started disengaging with nature. Nature became the enemy. It became something that stopped us doing what we were doing. So we started fighting it. We started, killing the things eating our crops. We probably invented the term pest at that point as well. So all of these things, they're all modern problems. But with that, we then evolved this sort of technological bubble, which just distances us even more. We do still need it, of course we do, but we are so distant from our food, from the environment. But inside, we have a hunter-gatherer that it's still there. All the toolkit we had or have that we used to be used and stretched and utilised is sitting there unused. And as soon as you start using it, you find you develop a feeling which may be unfamiliar to you initially, and that's this deep satisfaction that you've got from nature. And it's because, and I believe it strongly, this is because it's basically pinging those synapses, those nervous pathways that have been sitting there redundant. We've been using our mobile phones and doing that rather than doing that, and our horizons have dropped. And as soon as we get those little moments, those moments that remind us who we are, we feel it. It's like that. It's that what it feels. When you lie in the sun, that first sun of the year, and you just feel it on your back, even though it might be cold out, and you feel it on your back. That's one of those feelings. It's that feeling of going to the beach, jumping into the sea on those first really hot days, unbearably hot days. That feeling of that refreshing zing. That's all part of that. But you can have that every day if you tune in to nature around you. And I think that's the key. So use that toolkit that we sort of, our own culture has, for a lot of us, enforced us to put it down and forget it. And that's, I think that's what I'm getting at. We are amazing creatures. We just don't know it.
Yeah, and it does give you a genuine thrill, doesn't it? I remember, I think it was May, possibly early June, and I happened to look out the window, spotted a woodpecker on my bird feeder, and I'd only ever seen a woodpecker before, and that was on the front grille of my car after I'd smashed into it.
Oh no!
But to see a woodpecker, which are pretty large birds actually, aren't they? It's sort of pecking away, and it was just really lifted my day.
Yeah, and that's it. I can't remember what the figure is now, but a huge portion of households in the UK feed the birds for that reason. It brings nature in close. There's lots of things you can do to attract nature to your space, and that's another thing you can do. You can even plan it because you've needed it this year. Plan for it next year. Assume. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but if it was going to happen again next year, try and think, well, okay, what did I miss this year? What can I have in my garden that will attract the things I didn't get? So plant nectar-rich flowers, dig a pond, do all those things that will bring nature to you. Because obviously, when you're restricted to your garden, you suddenly realise where the holes are, and you think, well, actually, if I had all these other things, then I'd be sitting here surrounded by wildlife. But instead, I've got my little square lawn and my sterile roses, and I've got nothing else. But if you can garden for wildlife, it's good for wildlife, but it's also good for you. And again, this year I've done less in the garden. I've done more in the garden in the sense of appreciating it, but I've done less in the garden when it comes to sort of gardening, basically, and manipulating stuff. So it's been one of those weird years for that as well.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant for wildlife, and it's a great excuse not to do any work as well. So it's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nick, I always sort of end on this question. What has Nick Baker learned about Nick Baker during lockdown?
I've learned. I know it sounds crazy. I know I've preached it for ages, but I've actually practicing what I preach now. I've realised even I move too fast and don't look at enough stuff. I tend to look at. I've read quite a few books this lockdown as well, and I've started. The messages in some of those books have led me towards appreciating things like it's the last time you're going to see them. I know that sounds morbid, but it shouldn't be. So it's interesting looking at flowers. It occurred to me that I've forgotten that it's awful. I've forgotten the name of the book now. It was the memoirs of someone who was dying of cancer and knew that was all over. So it doesn't sound very positive, but it is positive because it was almost like this relief. As soon as they knew what the problem was, they knew they had a certain amount of time left. They realised that there was all these simple things that they hadn't done. So I tend to think of things so it made me start thinking about flowers. So gorse, right? So gorse flowers. We know it's the yellow fuzzy thing. It appears on these spiky bushes, smells of coconuts, etc., etc. But it's only occurred to me, I couldn't recall when the last time I really looked at a gorse flower and really looked at it. I mean, gone right in there and looked at it, counted the petals, looked at the shape, the fuzziness on it, the colours, the bits and pieces. And I went out and did that. And almost every flower, and I often have to steel myself because I've become complacent to a lot of, I mean, you do, it's natural. You walk through an environment, once you process something, you just keep going through it. And, I see flowers, even the daisies on the lawn, I see them all the time. And you just see, oh yeah, daisy. Oh yeah, honeysuckle. But then when you try and, I lie there at night, before I go to bed, try and think about the things that I've seen in the day and think, oh, did I really look at that properly? Because I can't recall it now. I can't recall exactly that colour. So I make a note and I go back and I do it again. So yeah, try and steel yourself every now and then to lean into something that you take for granted and really, really study it, as if it's the last time you're ever going to see it. And that can do nothing but improve you and the world around you as well. Because as soon as you start seeing things, you start noticing things, you start appreciating, you start loving them, and then you start caring for them and protecting them. So, and it's an age-old recipe for conservation. The reason for conservation is that you've got to love it first to appreciate it and understand why we need it. So yeah, that's what I'll do.
Yeah. No, great advice. We all tune in to our TVs and watch stuff, but actually, some of the best sights you can see, some of the best experiences are right on your doorstep, and it's for free.
Yeah, it is, and I mean that's the thing. I mean, I'm not like everyone else. I've been eating the box sets as well, but I'm getting to a point now. I'm actually a bit bored. I just want to finish the one I'm on now, and then I'm just going to put them down for a while because also they stopped making all these series we've been following. You're all crying out for the next series, but everything's stopped, because they can't do it because of COVID restrictions. So we've got a situation where actually there isn't going to be much fresh stuff for a little while. There's going to be a gap. So you better find something else to do with your time. I mean, I'm fortunate in the sense that I've taken thousands of photographs over the years, and I've got massive catalogues of photographs that need editing, and I'm not been very good at doing them. So I'm actually working my way back through my photo catalogue, and actually that's really nice because you relive moments, and I'm slightly OCD, so I quite enjoy organising things as well. There's some sort of pleasure in that. So so that's what I will be doing as the day length gets shorter. I will probably be spending a bit more time on that because let's face it, I've watched all the box sets I want to see now.
No, I can relate to that. I choosing the background for today's call. I was going through my photo library, and this was taken in Teignmouth in April.
Lovely. Look at that. It looks almost like the tropics, doesn't it? I mean, I was about to say you've got to get your horizon straight, but of course I've just looked at the position of my camera. I'm doing this on my big posh DSLR rather than my computer camera. And I've realised my mount's a bit squiffy as well. So while I'm straight, my horizon's also sloping, so I can't be critical.
Well, we'll let the viewers decide who's more slopey. Brilliant, Nick. Look, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure, Mark.
Unfortunately, you're gonna have to get back to updating your website and stuff now.
Yeah, my next job. Look, there it is.
Well, enjoy it. We'll hopefully catch up in a couple of months' time, see how things are and where you are. Good luck with the charity work. We'll check out.
Much, and if anyone wants to support it, I've got a Just Giving page up as well, as is everyone on the team, and yeah, we're all doing a little bit, a little bit for conservation in any way we can. So yeah, any support there, much appreciated. But you know, otherwise, just do your own thing and enjoy the autumn as it arrives.
Great. Yeah, well, I always do a blog on the back of these things, so I'll put a link in to that. And also, yeah, Rewild. If anybody wants to pick up on some of Nick's tips, get out there and enjoy it. Rewild is a great guide, available on Amazon and all good bookshops. Yeah. I can highly recommend that. Nick, appreciate your time, mate, and yeah, speak soon and have a good day.